Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. We're going to be doing some hot stove talk. No, we're not talking about Thanksgiving and preparations there. MLB hot stove, off-season moves, plenty of free agency going on, and what's all going to be happening right here with the Fox 43 free agent frenzy. I am joined by Cale Ahern to talk about where we think some of these guys might be landing.
And the premise is pretty simple, Alex. MLBTradeRumors.com does a free agent predictions list every year. The website is based off of beat writers' reported coverage, and they compile all the beat writers across the league, all their stories, all the coverage of their teams every season, as well as produce their own original content every year. So part of that original content is the free agent predictions list. Now, MLB Trade Rumors has been around 17 years. I have personally probably been a fan all 17 years since the website has been going, and the free agent list has really taken off in the last 10 years. I would say probably in the last 5 is when they started the contest. People have been able to submit and try to keep up with their own picks, as well as the team of writers at MLB Trade Rumors when they compile their list, release it every year, and now there's a contest as well. So this is part of our Fox 43 Sports entry into the contest as well. So we're going to go through, talk about the biggest names that are out there available to the teams, able to make impacts on some different franchises across the league, depending on where guys go. So I think you can't start anywhere else but the biggest bat on the market, and that is New York Yankees' Aaron Judge. 30 years old, coming off a year where he hit an American League record 62 home runs, took home the MVP. Right now, actually rumored to be in San Francisco, with visiting with the Giants. He was spotted at the airport there. It would be a huge move for him to move away from the Yankees. I really don't know what that would do to their franchise and what direction do they go, removing such an impact bat from the lineup. So for me, I can't see him leaving the Yankees. He has been a career Yankee, and I really think that the franchise at this point is going to have to ante up, give him what he deserves. I have him getting a 7-year, $315 million deal, so a lot of cash there for Aaron Judge to stay with the Yankees.
I got him back with the pinstripes as well. You have to think, what's their identity without him? And I don't know that they have one. He bet on himself last year. Paid off for him big time. I think it's going to pay off in the form of actual money from the Yankees.
Absolutely. And then the next big bat on the market is the first of 4 free agent shortstops. There's some great impact shortstops on this market, and the first of which is Carlos Correa. Played last season with the Minnesota Twins, before that of the Houston Astros. And when he signed a deal last year with the Twins, there was an opt-out in the first year. It was pretty much implied, I'm going to test out my market after one season. So it wasn't his best year, but he still put up 22 home runs, 291 batting average, and he's entering the market at 28 years old. At this point, I kind of think, at this time around, he's going to get his long-term deal, whether it's with, a team in New York or San Francisco, like I have him landing with. I think that's what he's going to do. I think the Giants, after missing out on Aaron Judge, this is a good alternative. So you can sign Correa for a nice 10-year, $325 million, like I have the Giants doing. Able to play shortstop now and probably transition to third base later in his career.
I've got him going to the Cubs. You mentioned the cup of coffee with the Twins. Only 28 years old. Chicago needs to start spending some money. They've looked like a minor league baseball team at times in the past few stretches here. Shortstop is a need for them. I think this is a benefit for everybody. They can spend some money. He'll be happy to take their money. And, you play for one of the more remembered and known franchises in the whole league. So
absolutely. And I think the Cubs ready to start spending some money for sure. Absolutely. The next is another great shortstop on the market, probably my favorite player on the market. He's one of those guys now with the proposed rule changes next year. No shifting anymore. You're going to have a little bit bigger bases. This guy, Trey Turner, has the athletic ability to really take advantage of those rule changes, and I think is a guy that is really the prototypical kind of athlete in the game that is really going to be able to take advantage. He has a little bit more range. He has that speed. So this is a guy who could really benefit from one of those rule changes. So first shortstop off the board with Correa, I have Turner landing with the Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox coming off a season where they struggled, obviously, and did not make the playoffs, but are looking to rebuild right away. It's not like a total just tear down and retool. So I think that they land Turner with a 7-year, $250 million deal. A lot of cash to land Turner. But they pair him with Trevor Story on the right side of the infield there at second base, and then you have quite a middle infield duo there.
I'm thinking he's going to the city of brotherly love. I got him going to the Phillies. You mentioned the speed on the bases. Obviously, Philly's jacked with power. I think the speed will complement well, and just it'd be an upgrade for them at that spot too. So,
and as a Phillies fan, I would absolutely love Turner there. That would be my choice as a fan if we could sign him. But I actually think the next guy on the list is actually going to be the guy that the Phillies land. Xander Bogaerts of the Boston Red Sox this year has strong ties to Phillies president of baseball operations Dave Dombrowski. Was actually there when Bogaerts signed his previous extension with the Red Sox. So. There are some strong ties on that market. And look, the Phillies have spent some money in the past few offseasons. It's not like they have not spent some cash. They do have a lot of money coming off the books, but therefore there are also going to be some holes to fill, right? So I think bats like Correa and Turner just going to cost too much money. And I think Bogaerts coming off a season where wasn't his best year going into a free agent season. A little bit down in power, only 15 home runs. Still hit 307, still outstanding defense, and still only 30 years old. I think the Phillies land him with a 7-year, $175 million deal to kind of solidify their middle infield top of that lineup.
I got him staying with Boston. I know they wanted to get a deal done before last year. He didn't like Boston's offer, but he's been a face there forever, and that's kind of something that Boston has always had on their team. And I also think they're kind of getting the Mookie Betts vibe. They don't want to regret that one, losing this one again. They need one of those high-level shortstops, and I think they've got the inside track on this one, so I think that benefits them here.
You had Correa going to the Chicago Cubs. Well, I have the last of the impact free agent shortstops landing with the Chicago Cubs as well. Dansby Swanson of the Atlanta Braves. Career-long Brave, and that was his hometown club, but he's not gotten an extension done with the team so far, and obviously has entered free agency. And I kind of think the Cubs, like you had thought as well, looking to make that move, ready to make an impact player, added addition to their lineup. And Swanson, still young, only going to be 29 to start next year. He's coming off of big back-to-back power years, 25 home runs, 96 RBIs last season. This is a guy who you can add to the middle of your lineup and kind of start to build that core in Chicago.
I think one of the big spenders this offseason is going to be the Giants. I've got them going to San Fran. Obviously, Crawford's got a year left on his deal out that way. He excelled in Atlanta, possibly the best defensive shortstop of the bunch out here. But, yeah, San Fran's going to be spending, so, save a little at the shortstop position as opposed to going after a Turner. But definitely, I think this is where Swanson would land.
Well, I totally agree with you. San Fran's going to be spending. One player that I do think they're going to let walk is lefty Carlos Rodon. He's going to cost some money coming into the market. He's coming off a good season where he had a career high in starts and innings in 2022, but he does have injury struggles. He has struggled with injuries throughout his career. Between 2019 and 2020, which is obviously the pandemic-shortened season, he only pitched 42 in the third innings. So there is some injury history there. But one team that I think is starter needy, has the cash, is going to be able to throw it around. And obviously, after retaining Aaron Judge, I think will turn their attention to the rotation is the New York Yankees. I think Rodon is the perfect kind of guy you could pair at the top of the rotation with Garrett Cole. So I think that they ante up, have to overpay probably a little bit. 6 years, $160 million.
Well, if anybody can overpay, it would be them or another crosstown team. I've got him going to the Mets. He did prove he could stay healthy last season, which I think was a huge step for them and really helped him going into this free agency. Steve Cohen has said he doesn't see a problem with a $300 million payroll, which would be kind of getting him right in what the Mets are going to be looking for. So I've got him heading to the New York Mets, which would also likely mean saying goodbye to another hurler on their squad.
Which is exactly who's next on the list. We got Jacob deGrom entering, his 34-year-old season. He's only pitched 156 in the third innings his last 2 years. Now, those were dominant innings. One season, there in 2021, he had a sub-2 ERA. But at the same time, he has struggled with injury history. His career 2.52 ERA is lower than some crazy names. You got Cy Young, Sandy Koufax, Tom Seaver. So he's going to get paid. He's going to get his money. It's probably going to be a little bit of a shorter-term deal with a higher annual average value. I'm thinking that he does stay with the New York Mets. 3 years, $135 million, so a lot of money for deGrom to stay with the team that he's only known.
Yeah, I've got them going to Texas with the Rangers, and I know they're going to be, it's, not the most competitive team, but they are going to be spending a lot this offseason, and they can overpay him. Going to need a little bit of everything down there, but I think this would be a great step for them as far as just building in that free agency. And you mentioned the health issues that they've had, and I think, that might be one of the reasons why the Mets let him walk.
Absolutely. Another team down there in Texas looking to make some free agent additions after winning that World Series is the Houston Astros. And their ace, AL Cy Young Award winner Justin Verlander is hitting the market. Obviously, coming off a season where he won 18 games, he had a 1.75 ERA, and this is his first season off of an elbow injury. Now, obviously, entering the season at 40 years old next year, there is an element of when is it going to run out for Verlander. I kind of think you saw the gas run out a little bit there at the end of the postseason. Still was able to win Game 5 for his first career World Series win there. But I think, the fit with the Astros has been perfect pretty much so far since he has been traded over since the Tigers. I think they found a way to get a deal done. 3 years, $130 million. I think he ends up staying with the Astros.
Yeah, he wants that Max Scherzer deal right now. And as you mentioned the age, he's getting up there. If we're looking at the career, I'd say, he's just below a quarter of a tank. But if you're doing that, you want bats around you. We're better than Houston. They showcased them all last season. I've got them sticking around in H-Town.
For sure. Next, you had just mentioned the Texas Rangers with Landon DeGrom previously. I think the next guy on our list, Brandon Nimmo, formerly of the New York Mets, is who I have landing with the Texas Rangers. 30 years old at the start of next year. He had his best year entering free agency, arguably 274, 16 home runs, 64 RBIs. But I think the biggest one for me is he scored 100 runs, 102 runs in 151 games, kind of showing that he can be the top of that order bat. I kind of think that, the Rangers could definitely use him at the top of that order. They spent a lot of money last offseason with Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, and John Gray in the rotation. So I think that they're going to continue that trend this offseason, definitely try to make some impact additions.
I got him sticking around with the Mets. Popular outfielder this offseason. Staying healthy has been the issue for him, but when he's been at the plate, he's been consistent. But I say he goes with the team who knows him and has invested in him before.
I think unanimously, the next player on the list I have seen go one place, and that is the only place I have seen him predicted to go. Wilson Contreras, formerly of the Cubs, going to the division rival St. Louis Cardinals. Obviously, losing Hall of Famer Yadier Molina, future Hall of Fame catcher Yadier Molina to retirement. So obviously looking to make an addition at catcher, and I think being a division rival, they see what Contreras has and what he can offer on the field. 22 home runs and 55 RBIs in 2022 has a little bit potential for more RBIs, a little bit higher average that he's shown in the past. And I think in today's game, anything you can get from catcher is a plus. So I think that offense is definitely going to come at a premium, and I think he finds a home with the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, Molina is such a rock in that organization, so that you need to really hit one out of the park here, actually. And, he can do that, especially you can also kind of get back at the Cubs all season long for lackluster offers in the past. So I've got him going to the Cards, too.
Absolutely. All right, now, number 11 is our first Japanese player on the list, first international, Kodai Senga. And I did some time researching him a little bit today, trying to figure out, where exactly he would land. 11 seasons in Japan. He's won 104 games, 2.42 ERA. It looks like he really concentrates on the breaking balls, right? So he has a fastball. It is high velocity, but there is times where he struggles with control based on reports that I've read. Forkball, slider, splitter is pretty much where he goes. He dominates with the breaking ball, but they're all plus pitches. I think he lands with somebody who has had some success with landing Japanese pitchers before in the past, working with them, and I think that is the Texas Rangers. I'm obviously working with Yu Darvish in the past, bringing him over from Japan, and they're looking to make those frontline additions. You had them landing DeGrom. I think they go another route here to land a top line hurler with Senga.
Okay, I've got another organization that has a past with dealing international players, and I've got him going to the New York Yankees. Obviously, we saw what he was capable of in the World Baseball Classic. He can pitch and beat MLB-level players every time, but Cashman needs to sign a pitcher, and I think he knows that. So, you're getting beat by teams with solid rotations each and every time you're getting into the postseason. I think they need to bolster that rotation. I think he's the guy.
Now, the next guy on our list, former Pittsburgh Pirate, kind of struggled this season. He started the year with the Washington Nationals, went over to the Padres in the Juan Soto trade, and then he struggled. He only hit 192 with 3 home runs and 14 RBIs in 53 games. He's a career 262 hitter who has shown power, switch hitter. I think that he definitely is going to rebound at this point in his career. I don't think, and I don't think his value takes too much of a hit in free agency, because I think he has a few different homes he could land. How about those Houston Astros coming off a World Series title? Definitely looking to continue the run next season. Had brought over Trey Mancini during the year. The addition really didn't work out. Yuli Gurriel actually suffered a knee injury in the World Series. Not clear exactly how long he's going to be out. So adding Bell would really solidify that order, add a little bit more power to that lineup, and then a switch order right behind Yordan Alvarez, Alex Bregman. Just really, really impactful, I think.
I've got him going to the Rays. You know, you mentioned it's kind of a low risk, high reward thing. Didn't exactly pan out, whether it was in DC or San Diego. And even when he was with Pittsburgh, you were still waiting for him to take the step to that next level and be that guy. You know, take the switch hitting talent down to Tampa Bay. They always seem to get the best out of people down there. And then who knows, he could move on in how many years here, but I've got him going to the Rays.
The next arm on the market is a former New York Met, Chris Bassett. Actually had a great season, career high 30 starts, 181 and 2/3 innings in 2022, and he's a career 3.45 ERA. So obviously 33 years old, looking for that final deal really to cap off his career. And I think he lands with the St. Louis Cardinals, a team that has shown in the past few seasons they've kind of struggled with arms in their rotation, struggling with injuries, kind of consistency and different things like that. So I think Bassett just kind of adds an ace at the top of that rotation, somebody who's consistent, will be there. And, you know, if your guys are able to stay healthy through the year, it's kind of a bonus. If not, you have Bassett and you're still able to make your playoff push next season in the NL Central.
I'm leaning with the Cubs, you know, ground ball pitcher, effective, and the Cubs need to land at least one big name pitcher this offseason, and it also keeps him away from other potential suitors within the division, which is why I went Chicago.
Absolutely. Jamison Tyon, former New York Yankee, entering the market. You know, he's coming off a decent season, 3.91 ERA in 2022, 177 and a third innings, and that was actually better than his previous season with the Yankees, and that was coming off a year of injury. So he's shown that, you know, maybe he's back to showing some true form. With me thinking the Yankees are going to be spending money elsewhere, I think that Tyon's going to leave. I think that he actually goes to a division rival in the Toronto Blue Jays, 4 years, $50 million. The Blue Jays need to make some additions in pitching. They did last year with Barrios and the year before with Hyun-Jin Ryu, and both of them struggled. Both Ryu with injury and Barrios had an over 5 ERA last season. So I think you definitely need to try to shore up that rotation if you're Toronto in a very stacked AL East.
I'm thinking the Yankees find a spot for him somehow financially here. You know, didn't miss a turn in the rotation at all last season. Came back after Tommy John. Effective pitcher for them, really was. And I think obviously they didn't give him the qualifying offer that he wanted, but I think at some point they're going to look around and realize that, you know, what else are you going to bring in? After they look at the stats and what he did for them, I think he finds his way back in pinstripes.
And if there's a team that can spend, like you said, it's the New York Yankees for sure. The next guy on the list, Andrew Benintendi, former outfield of those New York Yankees, came over in a trade at the trade deadline. Before that, he was hitting 320 for Kansas City. He was actually leading the league in hitting. He was having quite a season, then struggled with it after an injury later in the year. Actually took one right to the hamate bone, and then struggled to find his power upon return. He's a career 279 hitter. I think he's still a guy who can contribute. He's obviously benefiting from being 28 years old still, so still young, being able to find his footing. I think with the New York Mets losing Brandon Nimmo, I think that this is a perfect guy to kind of slide in there, left-handed bat in their outfield. It would be a quality addition to the top of their order.
I've got him heading out west to Seattle, joining the Mariners. You know, a year removed from the Gold Glove, you know, the All-Star, but, you know, you could slide him in as a leadoff hitter there, and I think it'd be effective. Obviously younger, but still has a veteran presence to him because he's been around and he's seen Seattle trying to make moves to take that next step. So I got him going to the Mariners.
Taijuan Walker, next on the list. Kind of go anywhere. You know, he had a decent season in 2022. 29 starts, 157 and a third innings, and an ERA under 4. The Minnesota Twins last year kind of made some patchwork additions, right? They tried to bring in guys like Chris Archer, Dylan Bundy, trying to patch their rotation. I kind of think they make that same kind of deal here with Walker. A guy not necessarily going to get a long-term deal due to injury history, but I think, you know, he lands a couple years and about $25 million to land with the Twins.
I've got him handed out to San Diego to join the Padres. And, he obviously has earned this pay increase coming his way. But, I think if you kind of saw what San Diego did down the stretch there, they're going to need to address some of those pitching issues. So I've got Walker heading to San Diego.
We've been talking about the Chicago Cubs spending some money this offseason, and I think that's what they do with the next guy on the list here, Sean Manaea. He's actually coming off of his career worst, 4.96 ERA, 28 starts, was traded to the Padres in spring training from the Oakland Athletics, so obviously a new organization for the first time in his career. He's an Indiana native, Indiana guy, and then obviously Illinois there with the Chicago Cubs not too far away. I think he comes home, lands that deal with the Chicago Cubs, 4 years, $50 million. I think the Cubs, might ante up, overpay just a little bit to secure left-handed starter for the top of their rotation.
I've actually got him going to Pittsburgh. This is enough of a name that the Pirates can say, look, we're actually doing something. We're signing somebody to bring them in. But again, coming off the rough season, but you go to Pittsburgh, you find redemption, redeem yourself, and then book it for a bigger deal eventually. But Pirates.
Another guy who struggled with injury history here is Andrew Heaney, left-handed pitcher. He's been both in the rotation and the bullpen the past few years, kind of fitting in where he needs to. Last year actually posted a career low, 3.10 ERA in only 72 and two-thirds innings, kind of showing that struggle with injury there. So a lot of different places he can go, but I think another team that I had mentioned that I think will try to add some starting pitching is the St. Louis Cardinals, and I think that they'll ante up, give Heaney a 3-year, $39 million deal to try to lock him down. And like I had mentioned with the Cardinals, struggling with some starters with injury, they can kind of mix and match who's going to be in the bullpen, who's going to be in the rotation with Heaney.
You mentioned Toronto needed arms too. I've got him going to the Blue Jays. You mentioned share of his injuries, shoulder work, good slider overall, but Toronto needs to bolster their rotation and their bullpen, and I think he's going to work there.
Jose Abreu is the next guy on the list. Career-long White Sox, right? He's never left there. Came over from Cuba and started his career there. He is coming off career lows, 15 home runs, 75 RBIs. Still hit 304. Still had 40 doubles. So still showing the bat isn't totally gone there. To me, just one of those guys I really can't picture leaving. There's a couple fits I guess you could see around the league. I have read that the Padres are all in on trying to add Jose Abreu to their lineup, but I have him finding a deal to stay with the White Sox. 2 years, $36 million.
Yeah, I've got him staying on the south side too. New manager. Obviously, we've heard Astros, Padres both interested, but the Sox are going to have to pony up a little bit extra money to kind of counter for the fact that they're not going to win immediately. But I think he sticks there.
Next guy on the list, right-handed power bat, Mitch Haniger. In his career, struggled with injuries, right? He's not really that consistent. Only 57 games in 2022. He hit 246, 11 home runs, 34 RBIs. But to show the sparse difference when he is healthy, in 2021, had 39 home runs and 100 RBIs. So he can certainly be that impact bat. Boston, obviously I have them adding Trey Turner, but they're going to also be losing some bats. And one of those guys I think that is going to leave them is JD Martinez. So kind of replacing Martinez with Haniger, a guy that you can actually play in the outfield a little bit more than Martinez and also slide into DH at times as well.
You mentioned the shift rule changes benefiting players. I think this is a case right there. I've got him going to San Francisco. Obviously, again, low risk, high reward here thing, but I think any team looking to make a splash will be happy with what they can get there for him. I got him going to San Fran.
Next guy on the list is also coming off a year where it was his first year off elbow surgery. Noah Syndergaard made his signing in free agency with the Los Angeles Angels, made his move over to the Phillies at the trade deadline, posted 3.94 ERA in 24 starts, only 134 and two-thirds innings. Like I said, first year off of elbow surgery, and kind of showing a little bit the different Noah Syndergaard than we had seen pre-surgery. Before that, he was a guy almost touching 100 miles an hour, striking out more than a batter an inning. This year, kind of showing a little bit more tactician, trying to have to learn to pitch it. Now, of course, second year off elbow surgery, he could show a little bit renewed velocity. We'll have to see. I have him actually landing with the Baltimore Orioles. Now, a little bit of an overpay here. 3 years, $36 million. And my thinking is the Orioles are ready to kind of turn the corner here too, right? Trying to make some additions. And to make a pitching addition, the Orioles just might have to overpay just a little bit. And he might be a guy to take a nice little gamble on here. Hope for that increased renewed velocity after the first season off elbow surgery.
Yeah, I'm thinking another team that's going to have to overpay to get him is the Arizona Diamondbacks. They want some kind of veteran presence in that bullpen rotation. And honestly, they need it. I think as long as he's willing to take the money over winning right now, I have him going to Arizona.
Next guy on the list. First deal that's already done. I mean, that's pretty easy for us. Anthony Rizzo stays with the New York Yankees. Really, I mean, free agency had opened, and I think he was with the Yankees within the first day. It was never a thought that he was leaving, and he said he loves being a Yankee.
Yeah, he likes being a Yankee. It made sense from the Yankee standpoint, but also from a strategic standpoint because he's also very good friends with Aaron Judge. I don't think that's going to be a discount in any way, shape, or form for him, but it made sense.
Absolutely. Next guy on the list, division rival, Boston Red Sox. Nathan Eovaldi kind of has carved out a nice little career there with the Red Sox. It struggled earlier in his career with injuries, and it kind of continued a little bit in 2022, only made 20 starts, 3.87 ERA, and he's only made 30 starts only twice in his career. But I still think, like I said, he's kind of carved out a good spot for him with the Red Sox, and I think he'll be able to find a way to come to a deal with the team, 2 years, $30 million to stay in Boston.
I've got him going to the Orioles, actually, and obviously Boston has made the qualifying offer. So if Baltimore wants him, they're gonna have to pay a little bit extra for him. But you have some injuries to the back shoulder, Tommy John surgery, but I think he could help that team take that next step.
One of the first lefty impact relievers on the list is lefty Taylor Rogers. He's going to be 32 years old next year and is actually coming off his worst season. Career worst, 4.76 ERA over 64 in the third innings. Traded twice last year, went from the Twins to the Padres and then to the Brewers. So obviously a lot of change in one season. I'm gonna say that he probably rebounds based off his career history. And I'm thinking a team that could definitely use the lefty in the bullpen will be the St. Louis Cardinals. I have them going pretty pitching heavy this offseason. I think they land him with a 3-year, $33 million deal. The Cardinals have a history of going left-handed reliever. We go back probably almost 10 years now. They made a big commitment to lefty Andrew Miller, and that worked well for them for a few seasons. I think they do the same kind of thing here with Rogers.
I think he has a reunion with Minnesota. The Twins have not done their bullpens any favors in recent years. I think they kind of look for people with potential coming off of rough years, and I think this kind of fits into that mold perfectly.
Absolutely. The next guy on the list, DH JD Martinez. At this point in his career, you're really not putting him in the outfield. He is that guy that you really want to be the power bat in the middle of your order. Only problem is entering his 35-year-old season next year and only hit 16 home runs with 62 RBIs last year. So if he's not really hitting for power, he's really not providing that value that teams need, right? So I think he enters free agency kind of trying to rebuild that value a little bit, and I think a team like the Twins, likely going to lose Correa, other power bat Miguel Sano, likely gone as well. So I think that this is the kind of guy that the Twins could add, not exactly going to break the bank, but still a possible premium addition to their order.
I've got him going back with Boston, and down year for Martinez when compared to his previous ones, but he still can be a stellar DH and kind of have that Crash Davis-esque feel to the whole clubhouse for the rest of the younger guys.
You were just talking about Boston. I think the next guy on the list obviously has been traded from Boston to the Houston Astros midseason this year, won the World Series with the Astros, and that is catcher Christian Vasquez. I actually have him returned into the Red Sox. At the time of the trade, he really expressed, how much the Red Sox organization meant to him. He's not necessarily looking to leave, and he hit 274 with 9 home runs, 52 RBIs, but is a defensive stalwart. That's what he's known for. So a guy that's actually providing that kind of offensive value on top of what he can provide defensively, huge value to a team, and I think that the Red Sox find a way to bring him back.
I've got him heading to Chi-Town with the Cubs. Split catching duties with Houston. Go to Chicago. You can be the guy, and they certainly need one too.
Next guy on the list is Kenley Jansen. Has been a career closer, has been shut down throughout his career, but is actually coming off his career worst season. So he'll enter next year at 35 years old, posted 3.38 ERA in 2022, but he actually still saved 41 games for the Atlanta Braves. It wasn't just like, it was an absolute terrible season. Wheels kind of came off towards the end there, and he had a little bit of health issues that he's had with his heart in the middle of the season there as well. I think he actually returns to the NL West. Formerly of the Los Angeles Dodgers, I think he goes to a rival in the San Diego Padres, 2 years, $20 million deal to try to take a late game role with a contending club.
I got him going to California too, but with the Giants. Cup of coffee with the Braves, but the Giants bullpen, not helpful last year. They've already parted ways with 5 of those guys. They need to fill some people. he's going to be one of them.
Next guy on the list, you don't even need notes, right? I mean, it's Clayton Kershaw. It's one of those guys you can't picture leaving the Los Angeles Dodgers. And at this point in his career, I really think it is Dodgers or retirement. And I have him finding a way to reach a deal. 1 year, $20 million. And this is the kind of agreement they've come to over the last few seasons. And I think they find a way to get it done again.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of people say, well, he's a Texan. Maybe he wants to go and be a Ranger. I'm like, if the Rangers were closer to winning it all, maybe he would take that. But be a Dodger, retire a Dodger, get yourself a statue.
Absolutely. The next guy on the list, already a done deal as well. But I did want to talk about this a little bit. Rafael Montero with the Houston Astros really just carved out a terrific role with him. He was a career starter throughout his minor league career, actually suffered a torn elbow a few seasons ago, but then was traded from the Mariners to the division rival Houston Astros and really has just flourished, carved out a role for himself. 2.37 ERA in 71 games for them, and actually posted 14 saves. So Ryan Presley's their closer, but Rafael Montero was arguably their other second most valuable reliever there, right behind Presley, and he's able to secure a big deal with the Astros. It was 3 years, $34.5 million. Just a key signing, I think, for Houston.
And he earned it. Not broke, don't fix it.
Absolutely. Next guy on the list is kind of the same deal there. Not broke, don't fix it. Jose Quintana. He's coming off a career renaissance type season, a 2.93 ERA, over 165 and 2/3 innings. You know, previous 3 teams, Giants, Cubs, he kind of struggled a little bit to find his footing. The Angels were in there as well. But with last season with the Pirates and then getting traded over to the St. Louis Cardinals, I mean, he just absolutely career revitalization. It was fantastic to see, and I think he's going to look to try to cash in a little bit on that. So the Detroit Tigers last offseason spent some money. They made a big signing with Eduardo Rodriguez to their rotation, Javier Baez, and so obviously they're looking to turn the corner as a franchise. And I think adding Quintana is the type of veteran addition that they'll look to make.
I've got him going to Atlanta. Braves need to upgrade that rotation. Not quite an ace, but I think he's more than effective for what Atlanta's looking for.
Absolutely. The next guy on the list is former division rival of those Atlanta Braves and Zach Eflin of the Philadelphia Phillies. I do not think he stays with the Phillies. He has suffered chronic knee problems throughout his career, and really at this point, it's kind of tough to find a role for him. You know, starting has been an issue for him. I'm not able to stay healthy. In the bullpen, he did find some success in the postseason run, but the one thing that I noticed is there was not really like a velocity uptick with him. It wasn't like his stuff played up a lot better once he was in the bullpen. So I think you kind of got to find your role for him, and I think a team that's pretty good at that is the San Diego Padres. Last offseason, they made an addition with Nick Martinez coming back from Japan, and you know, he was a starter in his career and has also served as a reliever, and that's exactly what he did last season. You know, he started with the Padres as a starter. Midway through the season, they turned him into a reliever, and he was very effective. I kind of think that's what Eflin is going to end up doing. 2 years, $18 million with the Padres.
This is a guy everyone's going to want to see the injury report on, and I don't think there's a team that knows him better than the Phillies, which is why I still think he somehow finds a way back to Philadelphia just for that reason. Gets a nice little chunk of change, but not too much to overpay.
And he said he doesn't want to leave Philadelphia, so I could definitely see that as well. Next on the list is Carlos Estevez, right-handed pitcher out of the bullpen, formerly of the Colorado Rockies. I have him moving on here, also landing with those previously mentioned Detroit Tigers. 3 years, $18 million deal. Kind of in the same vein of the Quintana move, right? You're adding a veteran arm that you think will help contribute to your team that you're trying to turn the corner in the AL Central. So I think he finds a way to land with the Tigers there.
I've got him sticking with the Rockies. The bullpen had the highest ERA in the entire major leagues last year, but he was the lowest on that staff. Some stability there while you're also trying to improve around him.
Jurickson Profar is our next candidate on the list, and to be honest, his career's really taken off since he landed in San Diego. He's coming off his best of 3 seasons with the Padres, 15 home runs, 58 RBIs in 152 games. Still only 29 years old and has that positional flexibility, man. You can play him all over the infield, the outfield. So I think that kind of player fits with the Padres, and I think that they found value in him, and I think they find a way to come in agreement. 2 years, $18 million to stay in San Diego.
Astros are looking for a left-handed hitter in the outfield. I think this is the guy. He opted out with the Padres, still just 29, so lots to contribute there.
Next 3 guys on the list, and this doesn't happen often. Done deals already. We have Jock Peterson, left-handed bat for the San Francisco Giants. Actually took the qualifying offer. It's a good fit for them. You know, he's a platoon bat at this point in his career. You know, he's really facing right-handed pitching. Still tees off on him, and you can put him in the corner outfield, first base. Good fit for what the Giants are still trying to do.
One of the more dependable bats for them, just consistency.
Martin Perez, the next one on the list, also another qualifying offer accepted. He's just found a good fit with the Texas Rangers. He's coming off his career best season, actually returning to the Rangers after pitching for them previously in his career, making a couple stops in Boston and Minnesota as well. So I think, this is just a good fit, and I think that's why he was able to take qualifying offer, also highest salary of his career coming off his best season.
Best pitcher for the Rangers last year. Made sense.
Absolutely. Tyler Anderson, man. This was a cashing in. We're talking in 178 and 2/3 innings, 2.57 ERA, career best season for sure. And man, cashed in 3 years, $39 million with the Angels. They're looking for him to be that left-handed arm in the middle of that rotation.
You mentioned they need a lefty. Talented team, haven't been able to put it all together. Somehow they're hoping he's going to be one of the key pieces that gets them there.
So back to some actual predictions now. You got your Seattle Mariners coming in here for Brandon Drury is what I believe. Middle infielder. Also, you could probably put him in the corner outfields as well. Good utility bat. He kind of had a career renaissance here. There was a career high 28 home runs, 87 RBIs in 138 games in 2022. Kind of had been up and down in the minors for a few seasons there, but really getting his chance with the Cincinnati Reds, and then was traded over to the Padres midseason. I think the Seattle Mariners are looking to make those additions to that lineup. They already made a trade for Teoscar Hernandez from the Toronto Blue Jays, and I think the Drury just kind of fits what they want to do. They want bats that can kind of move all over, kind of like Ty France they have that plays first, third, DH as well. So I think Drury just kind of fits to what the Mariners are trying to do.
You mentioned bats all over the place, so I've got him actually going to the Padres. That versatility can help until Tatis gets back, because we know he's suspended. But between the minor league contract with Cincy, trade to San Diego, he made the most of his experience last year, and I think he cashes in with the Padres.
Absolutely. Staying NL West, I have a former Dodgers pitcher coming to an NL West rival in the San Francisco Giants. Ross Stripling. He started 24 games in 2022, also relieved in 8, right? So he's shown the ability to be that swingman role, and that's what he's shown for his career. I think that he finds a home with the San Francisco Giants. Pretty loaded in the rotation, but also going to be looking to make those additions and kind of mix and match. They have Jacob Junis that has kind of played that swingman role for them last year, and I kind of think Stripling kind of fits in for them as well.
I've got him going to the Angels. No qualifying offers from Toronto, but, Anaheim came close to landing him as part of a three-team trade 3 years ago. He can be in the rotation or just come in for one of those Johnny bullpen kind of days. Absolutely.
Next guy on the list, another left-handed reliever, one of the best left-handed relievers on the market, Andrew Chafin. He's really pitched well the last couple of years. 2.83 ERA in 57 innings for the Tigers. He had a 1.83 ERA in 2021. Just like he's really taken off in the past few years of his career, and I think that he finds a deal with the contending team. So this year, I think he finds a deal with the Boston Red Sox. Somebody obviously I talked about, the Red Sox are going to look to make this a quick retool. It's not a full tear-down rebuild, and I think adding an arm like this to your bullpen obviously shows that you're trying to compete.
So we've obviously touched on that the Padres need to solidify their bullpen. I've got him going to San Diego, opting out of Detroit after a stellar year, but could see him helping with that kind of setup role for the Padres.
Philadelphia Phillies know this guy well, Gene Segura, entering the free agent market for the first time in a few seasons. He's coming off a year where you didn't necessarily want to be, playing less than 100 games, obviously entering your free agent year, but he's still able to hit 277, 10 home runs, 33 RBIs for the Phillies. And just a consistent all-around player. He's not gonna be someone who's gonna blow you away with offensive statistics. Not gonna blow you away in the field. Just kind of an all-around solid guy. And I think at second base, he fits for the Chicago White Sox. A good double play partner for Tim Anderson there. A good fit to solidify that core of the middle infield for the White Sox.
I'm thinking Baltimore. Not a player that's going to completely break the bank, but you could still throw him a little bit more money than other teams probably could if you're Baltimore. They've got a young group on the rise down there, and I think this guy could, he's got the playoff experience for the infield there.
And the market is filled with guys just making career rebounds and really looking to cash in. And Michael Wacha is one of those guys, formerly of the St. Louis Cardinals, actually with the Boston Red Sox last year, and actually posted a career best 3.32 ERA in 127 and a third innings. Only 31 years old, so I still think there's time for him to land a decent deal here. I think the Kansas City Royals are a nice fit, right? A return to the greater Missouri area there with the St. Louis Cardinals and a place that he had success earlier in his career, and just a team that is looking to turn that corner. Possibly going to bring back Zach Greinke to that rotation, but Wacha just fits in as a nice veteran piece for a team that had kind of struggled with their young hurlers in the past few seasons.
Not too much was consistent in Boston last year. This guy was. Seattle already has some strong rotation there, but I think he might be overlooked a little bit with all the arms in this free agents period here. So I've got them, looking to bring him into Seattle.
The next guy on the list, Phillies fans will also be familiar with, David Robertson. He's been the closer since he came over from the trade deadline. He had pitched for the Phillies before, struggled with injury, so he didn't make too much of an appearance, but he's bounced around the past couple seasons, Tampa Bay, Chicago. Actually started the season with Chicago before being traded over to the Phillies. He pitched to 2.40 ERA, 63 and 2/3 innings, and he put up 20 saves. I just kind of think there's a good fit here. Rob Thompson, Phillies manager, had managed him previously as a bench coach in New York. So I think, there's just kind of a comfort level and a fit here with David Robertson and the Phillies. I think they find a way to get the deal done and to bring the two parties back together.
Not a spring chicken, which I think makes him more affordable to some teams in this free agent period. But I've got him going back to the Phillies. I could see the Yankees trying to get a reunion in, but after seeing what the Phillies accomplished last year, I don't see why you wouldn't come back to that and have the inside track on him.
Next guy is actually just one of my favorite players on the market, if I'm being totally honest. He's one of those guys you describe as a professional hitter, right? Always high average. He's not always going to blow you away with the power. For example, last season, and he always struggles with injuries, right? That's the big story with Michael Brantley. 64 games last season, but he still put up a 288 average, 14 doubles, 26 RBIs. Still a good fit at the top of the order, and still could play in the corner outfields as well. I think a team like the Texas Rangers, we've talked about over and over, looking to make key additions, and I think just the veteran presence and professional hitter, like I said, in addition to that lineup, would just be a good fit in Texas. Obviously, already familiar with the Texas area, being in Houston, and I think that just kind of slides over. Brantley fits with the Rangers.
I've got him heading to Atlanta. Hit 306 over the past 4 years in H-Town. He will turn 36, but you're going to get great value for a solid outfielder looking for a new home. That's how I think he ends up with the Braves.
Absolutely. Michael Conforto, next on our list. He's going to enter the market Michael Conforto is going to enter the market at 30 years old next season. 232 with 14 home runs and 55 RBIs in 125 games. It wasn't the type of season he was trying to have entering free agency. He had hit 33 home runs in 2019, so he's shown his previous power ability. He's a left-handed bat, and I think he's going to want to try to sign a shorter-term deal, try to rebuild his value a little bit here. So why not sign a one-year deal with the Colorado Rockies? Try to find some playing time in that outfield. Chris Bryant really struggled with injuries last season, and franchise stalwart Charlie Blackmon's kind of on the way out. So I feel like his left-handed bat would also play at course, and that would be a good place to kind of play and try to get a bigger deal next offseason. So I think he lands in Colorado, 1 year, $15 million deal.
I've got him going back to the Mets. Obviously rejected the qualifying offer and then, missed out on a lot of last year with the shoulder injury. Drafted by the Mets in 2014, though, so he could take a less intriguing offer for less years and up and move. But, I think if he really wants it, he'll end up back with the Mets.
Next guy on our list probably has the dirtiest breaking ball in free agency right now, Adam Ottavino. Man, he has made a career out of that slider. It is one of the biggest breaking balls you'll ever see. And last year, he pitched to a 2.06 ERA in 66 games for the Mets, 79 strikeouts in those 66 games. And at 37 years old, he's still going to age well because, breaking ball isn't exactly like velocity, right? You're able to withstand that a little bit more. And I think a team that's kind of also trying to show that they're ready to compete is the Los Angeles Angels. Actually made a couple trades already for bats this offseason, so I think they go to the bullpen here, try to land Ottavino, 2 years, $18 million deal.
I've got him going back to the Mets. They're going to have to pay if they want to bring him back, but I thought he was so clean in that setup role to go into that closing frame that I think it worked too well.
One of the next guys on the list is a solid, if not unspectacular, kind of reliever, Chris Martin. And he's really just kind of carved out a role for him, turned himself into a solid reliever over the last few seasons. And has actually previously pitched for the team I have him going to, the Texas Rangers. So, last season, pitched to a 3.05 ERA, but after being traded traded to the Dodgers, got it down to 146. Really excelled and was able to strike out 74 batters in 56 innings. I kind of think this is the perfect kind of relief arm that a team that, like we have talked about, the Texas Rangers trying to turn that corner, would add. You know, not somebody who's going to break the bank, but somebody who will definitely have the chance to be effective for them in a late game role.
Splitting time with the Cubs and the Dodgers last year, but also has history with the Atlanta Braves. I think he ends up back in the ATL, which would be a good fit for him.
Another guy I really just can't picture leaving LA, right? Justin Turner. He had a career breakout with the Dodgers, and you know he had played for a few other teams in his career, but I don't think anyone can remember that because every highlight, every big moment, every good statistic he ever posted has been with the Dodgers, and I think that they're able to come to some sort of agreement, or he retires.
Yeah, I pretty much just wrote, just see what I said about Kershaw. You can only imagine him in a Dodger uniform. So
absolutely. Another guy who I think could possibly make a return to the uniform he has donned the most is Corey Kluber. He's kind of bounced around from team to team the last 2 years, kind of like that mercenary, right? A veteran pitcher who had pitched so well in the beginning of his career, has struggled with injuries, went to a 4.34 ERA in 164 innings last season, which is actually his most since 2018 when he was with the Cleveland Guardians. So I think he makes that return back to the Guardians, a team that actually just walked it off on him in the playoffs. So I think, you know, he goes there, and they've kind of shown, you know, they're a playoff team again. Why not be that veteran presence at the top of their rotation?
I've got him heading to San Francisco. You know, you have to find ways to replace Rodon, who I think is on his way out, and I think this is one of the arms that they could do it with and, you know, save some money.
The next guy on our list is kind of in the same vein of Noah Syndergaard. First year off an elbow injury and really looking to rebuild his value. Mike Clevenger spent the year with the San Diego Padres, 4.33 ERA and 114 in the third innings, only 91 strikeouts. So when this guy was healthy at his prime, he was more than a batter an inning striking out. So I think that he's definitely going to look for a shorter-term deal to try to rebuild his value, re-enter the market next season. He's a California dude. I think he's going to look to stay with one of those teams in California if he's able to find an offer, and those Los Angeles Dodgers might be just that perfect fit. You know, a team that is definitely going to have to add some rotation options. They have a lot of rotation options, but they have all dealt with injury history. So just trying to make sure that you have that depth to withstand those possible injuries throughout the season.
I'm thinking Detroit here. The Tigers had 17 different starting pitchers last year. They need to solidify something, and I think for the right price, given the injury file, they could bring him in and be solid.
Last one on the list. Solid, if not unspectacular reliever as well. Drew Rucinski, right? 4.33 ERA, 35 and a third innings with the Marlins last season. Really the best year of his career. And I mean, a 4.5 ERA and 35 and a third innings isn't necessarily something to write home about or anything like that. But I think, you know, this is the kind of guy that could solidify the middle relief corps of a team, right? So a team that, you know, is going to be spending money in some other areas is the New York Mets. And I think that they could, you know, kind of go on the cheap here and able to make this addition here to try to solidify that middle relief.
I'm thinking the Cubs, obviously stellar out in the Korea baseball organization, but you know, Chicago cut him back in 2016. He knows the organization. I think it's a good time to bring him back.
You can check out our full list of MLB free agent predictions on FOX43.com, and you can see the full MLB free agent prediction contest on MLBTradeRumors.com. Thanks for joining us today.